are the same way. They were a piece of machine that were tied to a time and an era that was romantic when people just lived an incredible lifestyle.
Lauren seeks out cars that represent those romantic lifestyles. Cars that were born in a bygone era. Ralph Lauren's 1929 Blower Bentley is a legendary car, in spite of itself. The Blower is a supercharged car born out of the most dominating motor company of the time, Bentley Motors. Yet from day one, it was an unwanted child.
The Blower Bentley really is a very interesting bastard. It was produced against the wishes of W.O. Bentley, and W.O. complained that to supercharge one of his cars was to pervert its design and subvert its performance.
Lauren's Blower Bentley is a loud, fast, bold car, one of only two of its kind. On the track, however, it was a disaster, breaking down in nearly every race it entered. For its speed, though, the Blower would become the rabbit, drawing opposing cars into a wear-induced breakdown, clearing the way for other Bentleys to win. And the fearless men behind the wheel attained mythic status. The famed Bentley boys were a brotherhood of rich Brits who drove hard and played even harder. They lived life to the fullest. Full-throttle racing, dusk-to-dawn parties. They were the very portrait of an envied, privileged lifestyle.
The Blower Bentley has gone into history as being the essence of the devil-may-care, laughing in the face of death, British racing driver of the 1920s. You know, it was champagne and high jinks, but when they got down to the racing, it was deadly serious. I promise you it was deadly serious. And they lived hard, they raced hard, and, you know, one or two of them died hard as well.
Essex, Massachusetts. Paul Russell and his team continue to work on the restoration of Ralph Lauren's 1938 Alfa Romeo. The car that was once stripped all the way down to just its body is now taking shape.
The seats have been redone many times, and from the photographs we were able to deduce this was the shape of the seat. We found a small speck of leather in the seat that was still attached to original threads that was never removed, so we were able to deduce that was the color they originally used. It's definitely bright and shocking, but that's what it was. I like it. From my point, I am approximately 98% there.
Out on the floor of the shop, though, the team has run into a challenge: rebuilding the Alfa's engine in time.
Well, we're going to start an exhaust system. This one's been cobbed up through the years, made in about 10 or so sections, and we're going to try and do it in 3 pieces.
The team is using a traditional technique called sand bending to make the exhaust system. Each piece is filled with sand, then heated with a blowtorch. Once hot, the metal becomes soft and the piece can be molded. Bending by hand to the precise angle takes time, a commodity that is in increasingly short supply. For at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, finishing touches are being put on the exhibit, and the Alfa Romeo is the only car missing. At the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts, a new exhibit is beginning to take shape. Rather than paintings or sculpture, this is an exhibition of automobiles. They are some of the best from the car collection of Ralph Lauren.
To me, this was the cars as art. They were art pieces, and they wanted it to look like an art gallery.
It is a controversial choice, presenting cars in the same manner as a great master like Matisse or Van Gogh. But the museum's curators seem confident in their decision.
People said, "You're doing a show of cars?" I can't imagine why not. I mean, the idea that an art museum would only have paintings and sculpture is just foolish.
You only have to look at one car in the exhibition, study it closely, and you'll see a refinement of design, a refinement in the choice of materials and the textures of materials.
The centerpiece for the exhibit is a car like no other. Ralph Lauren's 1938 Bugatti Atlantique Coupe is a car of pure inspiration. It is the creation of Jean Bugatti, who was born into a long line of artists, and with his father, Ettore Bugatti, automakers. The Atlantique is inspired by aircraft design. Rivets are even left exposed across the roof. Every detail, every decision is weighed not only for its function, but its beauty.
The Bugatti Atlantique is one of those very rare, very great, very charismatic masterpieces of automotive art. Every line of it is thought-provoking.
It truly is an extraordinarily stylish object, a piece of sculpture. It speaks a little of evil. I think it's so wickedly designed. This black beauty, though, it's extraordinary.
Extraordinary, but also one of the last from the designer. In 1939, Jean Bugatti slipped behind the wheel to test a new prototype. It was the final act of a storied life. Bugatti died in a violent crash. He was just 30 years old.
There was a guy who was so hugely talented in so many ways, and when he was killed, it was a catastrophe.
In New York City, Ralph Lauren and his team are under the gun to put the finishing touches on a debut of their own.
When building a line, you know, everyone has an accumulation of everything in their life that leads to what they do in their career somehow. I think of my wife when I design, I think of my kids when I design, I think of my cars, because I'm seeing all the time, it's all registering.
His life touches his work, and his cars have touched his life, but then he moves it brilliantly into the design process. For instance, this was a modern bed that was totally inspired by the seats of his cars.
Ralph Lauren's cars have always influenced his design. Sometimes it's the material. The carbon used to build the McLaren F1 becomes a slim, elegant chair. Other times, it's the color. The bold yellow of a Ferrari carries over into sleek yellow leather pants. Always, it is a vision of a total lifestyle, from classic Americana to the rugged American West, to the elegance of the English countryside that brings together form and function. Within the collection are two Jaguars that speak to a key element Ralph Lauren looks for in his cars, the marriage of form and function. The offspring is the 1957 Jaguar XK SS, built for the road. The parent, the 1955 Jaguar XKD, the personification of speed in its day.
The D-Type was a car purpose-built for racing. You look at it and you immediately have the connotation of speed, that it's small in the front and then tapers rearward as it gets larger so that the airstream flows over it easily. And also look at it. It's got a wing behind you. How cool is that? There's a representation of speed of the 1950s. The thing had a friggin' wing sitting behind the driver's head.
With its low windshield and wheels tucked under the monocoque chassis, a body built out of a single piece of aluminum or steel, it is a car built for speed. The XKD made its racing debut in 1954 in France at an endurance race like no other, the famed 24 Hours of Le Mans. The Jaguar cleared 170 miles per hour on the straightaways, yet finished second to a Ferrari. The next year, though, the XKD took the title at Le Mans, the first in a 3-year run of victories by Jaguar. Winning races, however, is only half the story. Car companies exist to sell cars, And in the automotive world, there's an old saying, win on Sunday, sell on Monday.